Did you know that you and I, Homo sapiens, aren't the only humans who have ever walked the earth? That's right, our family tree is way more crowded and fascinating than most people think. For millions of years, our planet was home to a diverse cast of ancient human relatives, each with their own unique story. Let's travel back in time, way back, more than 2.4 million years ago, to meet one of the earliest members of our genus Homo habilis. Now, you might be wondering, what's so special about Homo habilis? Well, these ancient people were true pioneers. They weren't just surviving, they were innovating. Archaeologists have given them an awesome nickname, the handyman, or as I like to call them, the original repairman. And they earned it. Why? Because they were among the very first to invent and use stone tools. Imagine this, you're living on the vast African savanna, millions of years ago. There are no grocery stores, no metal knives, nothing. Your survival depends on your wits and what you can make with your own two hands. This is the world of Homo habilis. They figured out that by striking one rock against another in a specific way, they could create sharp-edged flakes. This was a massive technological leap. These weren't just random broken rocks. They were intentionally crafted tools, the very first items in the human toolkit. These simple, yet revolutionary tools, which scientists call the old Darwin tool industry, completely changed the game. With these sharp flakes, Homo habilis could do things their ancestors only dreamed of. They could butcher carcasses left behind by large predators, slicing through tough hides to get to the nutritious meat and bone marrow inside. This was a huge protein and fat boost, which was crucial fuel for their developing brains. They could also use these tools to process tough plant materials, like tubers and roots, making them easier to eat. Think about the intelligence and foresight this required. You have to understand the properties of different types of stone, know the right angle to strike them, and have the motor skills to do it consistently. This wasn't just brute force, it was a craft. It was the dawn of technology. This ability to create and use tools set Homo habilis and their descendants on a brand new evolutionary path, one that would eventually lead to us. The simple act of making a stone tool was the first step on a journey that would lead to smartphones and spaceships. So, where did these handy men live? Their fossils and tools have been found in parts of East and South Africa, in places like Tanzania, Kenya, and Ethiopia. They were relatively small, maybe standing around 3 to 4 feet tall, with longer arms and a more ape-like face compared to us. But the key difference was in their brains. While still smaller than ours, their brains were significantly larger than those of their predecessors, the Australopithecines. This increased brain size is likely linked to their tool-making abilities and their more varied diet. Living back then was tough. Homo habilis shared their world with a whole host of formidable predators, like saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas. They weren't the top of the food chain. They were clever opportunists, scavengers, and foragers who used their intelligence and their new toolkit to carve out a niche for themselves. Their existence was a testament to the power of ingenuity and adaptation. But Homo habilis was just the beginning. They were one of the first chapters in the incredible story of human evolution. Over the next couple of million years, the Earth would become home to an even wider array of human species. Think of it like a sprawling family reunion with relatives you never knew you had. For example, fast forward a bit to about 2 million years ago, and we meet Homo erectus. These guys were a game changer. They were taller, had bigger brains, and looked much more like us. Homo erectus didn't just stay in Africa. They were the first great explorers in our family. Their fossils have been found all across Asia and parts of Europe. They were true globetrotters, adapting to all sorts of new environments, from tropical forests to colder grasslands, and their technology got an upgrade, too. They developed a more sophisticated toolkit, known as the Achillean industry. The signature tool was the bifacial hand axe. Unlike the simple flakes of Homo habilis, these were carefully shaped on both sides to create a symmetrical, teardrop-shaped tool. It was the Swiss Army knife of the Stone Age, used for everything from butchering animals to chopping wood. And here's something incredible. They made these hand axes in a very similar style for over 1 million years across 3 continents. But the story doesn't end there. The world was still a busy place. Their brains were, on average, even slightly larger than ours today. They were expert hunters, taking down large game like mammoths and woolly rhinos with cleverly crafted spears. They made advanced tools, clothing from animal hides, and there's strong evidence they cared for their sick and elderly, and even buried their dead with ceremony. Some findings even suggest they created art, like cave paintings and jewelry from shells and eagle talons. They weren't grunting brutes, they were complex, intelligent beings with rich symbolic lives. And they weren't alone. At the same time, the Neanderthals were thriving in the West. Another mysterious group of ancient humans lived in the East, the Denisovans. We know much less about them because their physical fossil record is incredibly scarce, just a few bone fragments and teeth found in a cave in Siberia and on the Tibetan plateau. But from these tiny fragments, scientists have managed to extract DNA, and that DNA tells an astonishing story. The Denisovans were a distinct branch of the human family tree, related to but separate from Neanderthals. And here's the kicker. We know they interbred with both Neanderthals and the ancestors of modern humans. In fact, many people in Southeast Asia, Australia, and the Pacific Islands today carry a small percentage of Denisovan DNA. This ancient legacy helped their ancestors adapt to new environments, like the high altitudes of Tibet. It wasn't a simple, linear progression from one species to the next. We are, in a very real sense, a hybrid species, carrying the genetic echoes of these long-lost relatives within us. So what happened to them? Why are we the only ones left? The truth is, we don't know for sure. The extinctions of other human species were likely complex processes, not a single event. The fact that we are the last humans standing is both a triumph and a little bit sad. It's a reminder of how fragile existence can be. But by studying the fossils, the tools, and the DNA of our ancient relatives, we learn more about them, and in doing so, we learn more about ourselves. We see the deep roots of our own ingenuity, our curiosity, and our drive to connect. We are not alone in our history. We are the inheritors of a rich and diverse human past, a story millions of years in the making. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the incredible story of us. See you next time.